Hello, everyone. My name is Eric D'Souza, and today joining me for our continuing series of author interviews of Crime Writers of Canada members who've been shortlisted for the Awards of Excellence is Byron TD Smith, whose novel Windfall, a Henry uh, Lysyk Mystery, has been nominated for the Best Crime um, First Novel, sponsored by Writers First. Sorry if I get Henry Lysyk's name wrong, Henry.
That was perfect.
I, in my family, there's a Willick. I just want to call him Willick all the time, Byron. Um, so Byron, your protagonist, Henry Lysyk Mystery, is an accountant. I also read that you're an accountant. Do the similarities end there, or have you built yourself into your lead character?
Yeah, so it was never my intention to write a book about accountants or about an accountant. Um, it just kind of worked out that way. It actually I felt it helped the story. It was actually something that got added in later drafts. But that yeah, there are certainly some similarities. Henry and I are both accountants, both divorced, both love our nieces and nephews. I think the thing that we have most in common story-wise is I found myself at a point years ago where I was, sort of reinventing myself, and I'd moved into a rented suite in a heritage house that had four other suites. So there was five suites in total. And so you're in this house and you're living with all these strangers and you share this space together. And so that's where we sort of find Henry at the beginning of his story, where he's, lost his marriage, he's lost his job, his career is in shambles, and he's lost his home, he's living in this house basically trying to hibernate and um, avoid the world. But the mystery rather finds him. And I think I think your character in your book is an amateur detective as well.
Yes.
Those of us that are writing amateur detectives struggle with the why would someone actually want to solve a crime. I mean, if I heard about a murder, my instinct is not to like put my pen down, step away from my desk, and go solve that. So like, how do we get Henry to want to do that? And in fact, I made it a little bit harder in that Henry's a reluctant hero. He doesn't want to do that, but rather he has this streak inside him that makes him a real champion for the underdog. He can't help himself, but stick his neck out to help people. Whether those the people in his home who may be threatened by this external threat, or whether that's actually how he lost his job by sticking his neck out in sort of a financial situation. And from that, he gets his what I call his superpower, which is not a superpower in the Marvel universe terms, but by losing his job and extending himself in this sort of financial world that he lived in, he made some enemies. But at the same time, all of these small business owners and like people who have skills and have other attributes and can help him in other ways, they're all willing to in turn stick their neck out for him.
Mm.
So it's really about the whole accountant thing was really how do I find him not only how do I make him not only the person who doesn't want to solve the crime but is willing to solve the crime in the absence of anyone else,
Mhm.
but also how do I make it so that he's the only person that can? And it's because he's surrounded by all these people with all these skills, and even in his home, he's trying to hibernate, trying to get away from the world, but he's forced to meet them and forced to learn about them. And yeah, I just thought that was an interesting kind of idea, that old house with, we live with strangers.
Yeah, I get the impression, like the reluctant hero is not a new theme, but I
No,
think you ramp it up a notch. So just how he really doesn't want to be part of this and can't help himself. Uh,
yeah.
from the sounds of it, you've also written a great side character, his niece, as you call her, the adventure-hungry niece named Frida. Is Frida lightly based on somebody you know, or is she completely fictional?
Frida is not completely fictional. Frida is, and I apologize if I call her Fred. Henry calls her Fred, so sometimes I call her Fred too. Or Frida is sort of an amalgam of my own nieces and nephews, um, Liv, Henry, Maya, Nolan, who all have their own great attributes, and they're all really great at just like getting adults to lighten up You know what I mean? Like to pull that bit out of them. So you've got this hyper kind of serious guy who's trying to hibernate and all of these things, and then he's forced to have this visit from his niece, and she kind of teases himself out of himself in spite of himself to kind of come back into the world and turn back into the Henry that she knew. She was a really important part of the story, um, because she's not simply his niece, but she's actually his ex-wife's sister's daughter. So his
Mm.
his it would normally be his niece while they're married, and then the divorce happens, and you lose that half the family and this and this. But I really wanted, just like Henry has to find his new family with these strangers in his house, he has to figure out, like, is there any family left from his old life and what that means. I worked with two editors when I was writing the book, and Andrew Lowe helped me with the edits and actually bringing this to something that I would want to show to other people. But very early on, I think probably too soon after writing my first draft, I shared it with an editor. Basically, you're at that point, you're going, do I have a story? Is this a thing? Is this? And I shared this with a woman in the UK, and one of the suggestions that came back was, it would be, early on, it was like, it would be more compelling if Henry, or if Frida was Henry's daughter, because then it would make a lot of sense. If Frida was threatened, of course Henry would want to step up.
Yes.
But I didn't, that felt too easy to me. I really wanted that to be a strained, kind of like, and not an obvious relationship, like not a relationship that you naturally have, but a relationship you choose. And so, like, taking father and daughter and taking it one step further to like uncle and niece, and then one step further to like uncle and my ex-wife's niece, was just, you really have to choose the family and they have to choose each other. And so it becomes this real sort of conscious decision, which I think I executed well, because Frida has certainly been a real favorite for a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah, I got that impression too. And I also got the impression there's many layers to Henry. It sounds very interesting if you're just peeling away as a reader. To add extra layer that I thought was really genius of you is that it's fiction with a dash of true crime. So what could you tell us about the actual events that you started writing about?
Yeah, so that's that. The dash of true crime is an interesting one. So I'll if I can
Without saying too
sort of
much.
like why, yeah, yeah, that's right, that's right. It's hard, right, when you're trying to like synopsize things and trying to explain things, and like, what is a spoiler and what's not a spoiler, and this
Yes.
sort of thing. And some people have heard of the true crime, some people have not. And the reason that I sort of slipped a true crime in and out of the story, um, and I didn't mess with the actual facts of the true crime. I researched that, and there's a little afterword which talks about which parts of the story I borrowed from and why and where.
Mhm.
Um, but there's a play, I don't know if you've seen it, called Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, and it's this story of Hamlet's friends who basically play a very small part in Hamlet. But in the contemporary play Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, it's their story. And meanwhile, Hamlet, the actual play Hamlet, kind of passes through the background of the play occasionally, so you know where you are in the story. Or to put it in more contemporary terms, there's a great episode of Deep Space Nine where they actually go back to the 1960s episode with Tribbles, and so you have the 1990s characters on the 1960s set, and they intersperse the footage. And so I wanted to do that with like true crime and fiction, and just have them kind of intersect and cross over and weave in and out of it. Um, and then the total geek in me, actually, if I may, this is the hardcover version of the book, and the cover designer Jamie Keenan went overboard in indulging me. And there's actually a 1971 plane ticket as a bookmark you can cut out, and I love this. This is the total geek in me. The Under the dust jacket is a cutaway of a 1971 727. So those of you who know the true crime will know what I'm talking about now. Those of you who don't, it's incredible. It's something that happened in 1971. It remains unsolved to this day. I really wanted the book to come out in 2021, so that it was before the 50th anniversary of the actual event. And it I know 50 years ago, it's like forever.
Sorry, did
Yeah.
this take place in Washington?
So that, yes, it did. Yeah. So the crime took
I'm starting to
place in
guess.
Washington. There you go. Yes, yes. The crime takes place in Washington 50 years ago, but Henry lives in Vancouver, BC,
Mhm.
and the story takes place in Vancouver, BC, which is not too far from Washington and Oregon. Yeah.
No, it's a short little drive away for those people in the East Coast who don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's about 4 hours from Vancouver to Seattle, depending on the border. Well, once again, congrats on the nomination for Best First Novel. Here's a little bit of trivia for you too. In 2006, Louise Penny won this award. So very impressive to be nominated for it. My question though is this, or hopefully maybe this didn't inspire it, but is there going to be any more Henry Lysyk stories?
Yes, there are more Henry Lysyk stories in the works, for sure. I hadn't realized that Louise Penny had one. That's already, I felt very honored, and I'm honored to be on this webcast, and honored to be nominated by the Crime Writers Canada for this award, or to be shortlisted for it, I should say. There are definitely more Henry Lysyk stories in the works. Yes.
Great to hear.
I was very fortunate with my first draft in that I was able to take 6 weeks off work to basically work through an initial first draft, which then took a year and a half at least to edit into something more reasonable, because when you hammer out a first draft that quickly, it needs a lot of massaging. At least mine needs a lot of massaging. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe I'll take the summer off.
Good excuse. Our internet's starting to go, so maybe we'll leave it at that.
Okay.
I hope most people heard the last section there. It's in and out a little bit. But yeah, the first one always takes the longest, right? It's our baby. And then publishers want one a year.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Byron. It was a pleasure meeting you, and thank you everyone for watching.
Okay. Thank you, Eric.
Good. Oh, and good luck for May 26th.
Thank you very much. Okay. Have a great day.
Bye.